I'm okay with that page. David, what do you think? Okay.
Yes.
Good with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Changes to that.
Before we leave the part about the fish ladder, um, uh, we working with natural. I'm on the, as you guys know, I'm on natural resources,
Mhm.
and we're still consulting with EA about the end of their contract. Okay, and so I raised to them the possibility of finding out how much it would cost for them to do an engineering work on a fish passage. They were going to come back to us with some ideas. To be frank, they seemed excited about it because they thought that the side, if we were ever going in that direction, the side channel, they thought at least one of the engineers, I can't remember her name, who has worked on these before, said it has a natural flow that could be utilized. So we haven't heard back from them, and all they're going to do is give us about how much it would cost for them to do a proposal on it.
Right.
But we'll bring it back. We'll bring it to the full our full task force when we have a chance. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay with this page.
Actually, could I propose a minor edit to this?
Sure.
Maybe instead of saying a fish ladder,
Oh yeah.
and just say fish passage,
Yes.
because I
Yes.
think what has seemed most interesting to people is sort of like a nature-like fishway, and that seems to be
Absolutely.
the way it's going for a lot of fish passage.
Yes. In
Um,
fact, that's what they were excited about, Bert. So that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
so just change that to passage.
Yeah. Good.
Okay. So I had put this possible alternative to 1 through 3 in here, and that was really because of what I was able to find for information on Dash.
Hmm.
So I don't know if we want to, that's further down towards the end of the document. So I don't know if we want to come back to this after. Um,
Yeah. My only concern, it's maybe minor. From what I'm seeing, the more you can get people involved in the community, the better off you're going to be. So I liked the idea of mentioning the Friends of Warner's Pond, who are clearly not going to go away, no matter what happens, and the Organization for the Assabet River. They're the two main groups, and I think coordinating with them is kind of important. That's one thing.
yeah. So
You
now that
know.
you say that, I'm realizing this should have been 2 to 3 instead of 1 through 3.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Mhm.
Okay.
Well,
Right. So I made that slight change to number 5, and it's just, the semantics. Again, as a historian, right? The long history of this waterway is Neshoba Brooks, and I think elsewhere this document talks about the Neshoba Brook watershed. So I just thought that would be important
Sure.
to include.
That's fine.
It occurs to me, I've actually been doing, just out of my own interest, a lot of research on the indigenous population living along the Concord River.
Uh-huh.
And it really seems that a lot of the orientation was relative, actually, beyond the Concord to the Merrimack and Pawtucket Falls. And here it says, its function, I guess I'm talking historically,
Mhm.
it seems that the Concord River and the Merrimack River and the Pawtucket Falls were really important parts of it. You know, the fish were coming up from through the Merrimack. It appears like, for instance, eels. Actually, they breed in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, but they would swim all the way up as far as this. So I don't know if it's beyond the scope of what we would say here, but I'm not, like I say, I'm newly aware of just how much the Concord and Merrimack played a role in this pond.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's funny you mentioned eels. It's actually one of the species that I'm an old I used to like bird. I've done a lot of fishing, and it's one of the species I'm really concerned about, is I think they've really taken a hard hit over the years. So yeah, I agree.
Right, so David, were you suggesting that it be the, let me see.
The
if I
Concord
got
and the
it.
Merrimack
The
as well.
Suasco, the whole Suasco.
Yeah,
watershed?
yeah, the whole Suasco watershed. Well,
Want to
Suasco,
change this to,
well, would you say Suasco, or would you say the Merrimack watershed, the Neshoba Brook, Assabet River, and Merrimack? Because those are three connected. We're not really connected to the Sudbury. I mean, right?
No,
I think that makes sense.
But we're connected to the Merrimack via
Absolutely.
by the Concord, though.
Yeah, the Concord and the yeah, I completely agree with that. The Concord.
So I think you should spell out the rivers, just for not, like, I'm hearing that term, or
Yeah.
newly aware of that term of the broader watershed that a lot of people wouldn't immediately know. You could put that in parentheses there, but I think listing the Concord and Merrimack rivers.
I agree.
Okay.
Because I think there's more that actually it's downstream that I think is actually more affected than the upstream by the pond.
I agree. Makes sense. I'm good with that.
Okay, and then down below it, 10. So there already have been quite a lot of archaeological studies in Concord. It's one of the best documented towns for indigenous lifeways. But of course, they're protected by state law, and so those maps cannot be shared. But I've seen them, and I know that there are areas along, on the banks of the Warner's Pond, and up on Neshoba Brook a little bit further. The Historical Commission is currently doing a study. The Historical Commission Planning and HDC are currently doing a historic preservation planning study, and they're talking about, or we're talking about, let's see, in Mass Historical, they focus on the archaeology, but the National Park Service talks about indigenous cultural landscapes. So the archaeology is protected, but the whole concept of, the lifeways and the people, that should be something that we should be able to share. So if we sort of talk in general terms.
And the one thing, though, I don't feel comfortable with is you crossing out the stakeholders. I mean, for example, if you ever wanted, or someone wanted to touch and look at Scout Island, they should be talking to the scouts, or any of the other the property abutters. Why not just put it in there as you don't have to, but I mean, it seems to me that you want to be open to consulting with stakeholders.
Well, yes, but I think the Historical Commission is the official body.
Yeah,
it's responsible for archaeology and working with the state on archaeological surveys. And so it's, a lot of people have ideas about what they want, but they don't really know what the laws are. And so, just working through the official bodies, it seems to.
Well, it is, but the official bodies in Concord, here we go again, this is this big thing, are the people. We're the legislative body. And I'm not saying we should break any rules. I'm just saying we ought to direct. You can even say the Historical Commission should talk to the stakeholders who own property in the area if any kind of survey is about to be done. Doesn't that make sense? I mean, I don't see why that would be an issue.
Well, it's because the historical commission would be the one doing the survey. So they would be
Sure.
the ones working with the stakeholders. So
Yes.
it's not necessarily the, it's about who is the responsibility, and the historical commission is the one with the responsibility.
So let's see, can you go back up? So how do we word this going up further? Would you, yeah, that's it. This is under the Natural Resources Commission?
Where are you looking, or what section are you looking for?
See, number 10 says consulting. What is, keep on going up to number 1 for a minute. All right, let's see. We recommend that the NRC and DNR okay, how about so we're saying this is what the NRC should do. Should consult with the Historical Commission and with stakeholders.
About how to proceed, right?
All right, David, what's your opinion? I'm thinking of you specifically.
Well, I guess I'm thinking of the stakeholders, particularly like Bruce in this case. So I agree keeping stakeholders in, but the NIPMUC are, and I mean, the research I've done actually seemed to indicate this was more the Pawtuckets here, but it's interesting because all the data we now have is really indicating more Nipmuc. But as far as I could tell, this was a kind of borderland between the Nipmuc, Wampanoag, Massachusetts, and the Pawtucket, with the Pawtucket dominating between Concord and Pawtucket Falls.
Yeah.
And but they died off in the pandemic that occurred before the arrival of the Mayflower, and their populations never recovered, but the Nipmuc did, and so they they get to tell the story now.
Yeah.
Well,
But at
they
any rate,
all
the
merged.
Nipmuc.
Yeah.
What's that?
They merged. It's complicated. They didn't, I think that there would be many people who would argue with you when you say that they died off, right?
Oh, that's
Their whole
I
entire
do, yeah,
folks, yeah.
that is what I read. They merged. There's some accounts that would indicate that the Nipmuc were a stronger, larger population, but I don't need my point is really that we don't have a recognized designate individual tribe or band of Pawtucket anymore, but we do have the Nipmuc who are participating actively in our process. So I think that I like having stakeholders continue to be included.
Bert, do you have any opinion?
The point wasn't to exclude stakeholders. The point is really just that the Historical Commission is the official body. And so it would be the Historical Commission reaching out to those stakeholders about
Okay.
any sort of archaeological work.
I see. That
So
makes
the
sense
NRC
to
would
me
be
is that the
consulting with the
stakeholder,
commission.
for this matter, it would be the Historical Commission's responsibility to interface
Exactly.
with the stakeholders. That makes sense to me.
Yes.
All right, okay. I am thinking though, at some point, they would have to reach out, because you can't dig on Scout Island without talking to the scouts. You can't dig on anybody else's property without talking to them.
Exactly, and you need state permits. It's very, very complicated, and
Yeah,
it's
okay,
not
all right.
something that you take on randomly. And there are different levels of archaeological surveys or assessments. And we're going through this in other sections of town currently. And it's sort of you don't want to disrupt artifacts unnecessarily. So you begin with an assessment, and it's really if they're going to be, you really.
Okay, I got it. I got it.
archaeological
I got that
assessments
in. It's okay. Yeah, it
If
makes
they're going to be, if there's some sort of construction project that's going to disturb them, otherwise you would not disturb them.
okay. Okay, I'm okay with that. And then number 11, fine. You want to move on, Bert? What we got?
Okay.
Oop.
Um, Yeah, I think that was just
Yeah,
making the language a little more clear.
yeah, I agree. That makes
Yeah, I
sense.
think that was a good edit.
Yeah.
Agreed. Agreed.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
So this sort of just reiterates what we were just discussing. And then there were some items that had been included previously. They are very specific as to the history. And I think that was removed at some point. So I
All right.
followed that lead and kept it vague. But also, again, acknowledge that it used to be a brook.
Sure. That seems fine with me. You know,
including farmers.
Bert knows I thought about this before. I know it's crazy. I wonder if anyone that we could ever raise the question of changing the name of the pond from Warner's Pond to Neshoba Pond. Is that never gonna fly? Some sort of an honor of the original people, the first peoples? Maybe not. Never mind.
I think that would be lovely, but I'm
Yeah,
sure.
but I think it would cause too much more controversy. But
Yeah,
it's I think it's,
I would tackle it at a separate time.
Yeah, I think
outside
you're
of all
right.
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
all right, keep on going. I'm okay at least. At least I'm
All
more up.
right.
Yeah.
What do we got here? Yes.
Good with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is what I added in here. Looked into some of the projected costs for stuff. The first one you can see would just be staff time for a cost to set that up, and we wouldn't really know what that is until we went through the process and figured out how much time it was using. So somewhat open-ended, but and the next was the biggest one that I looked into, the dash. So from what I could find out from talking to some towns and organizations that have been implementing a dash program for many years, and then talking with a contractor who does the work, I came up with this cost. And I think it's very, very rough.
Who'd you speak to,
But
Bert? Do you remember which company it was?
yeah, let me pull up. I have some notes on it. The company I spoke to was New England Aquatic
Oh,
Services.
yep. Yep.
It
I know
was
exactly
one of the
who you
ones
mean.
that Harvard had listed, and then I actually spoke with wasn't the conservation agent, but it was something similar to Delia's position, and
Yeah.
Barnstable, Mass, who they've been doing dash for 20 plus years in a couple lakes that they have.
Hmm.
And she actually recommended reaching out to this guy at New England
New England.
Aquatic Services. And then I also spoke with somebody from the state of New York, actually, Lake George,
Oh.
where they've been using dash for 20, 30 years, something like that.
How often do they have to repeat it, Bert? Do you know?
Every year.
Every year.
Yeah, that was one of my biggest questions for all of them, because I know that I can never remember his name from Harvard, but he said that they expected it to last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And based on my conversations with these people that I just mentioned, that's not the case. They said every year, if you don't do it, it'll come back. And in New York, he actually said that the best results they've seen have been when they've done it twice in a single growing season.
Right.
And it comes back in a reduced density, but if you don't keep up with it, it's just gonna the plants will reestablish.
Right.
Right. I had told Bert about my own personal experience. I live on Lake Cochituate, and back in, I think it was 2014, we found was when they started using dash. They started experimenting with dash, and and also chemical treatments. So our neighbors and my family, we pooled resources to do a dash program right in our little cove, and that, you know, it came back almost immediately. And certainly, I think we actually did do it the second year, and then the lake committee abandoned it completely and just went to chemical treatments,
Wow.
right? Just because it didn't make a dent at all.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. That's interesting. Hmm. Huh.
And so I know Harvard said that they had estimated $20,000 per acre.
Yeah.
From what I could tell, that the contractors typically will price it by the day, not necessarily the acre, because it can vary so much about how long it takes them to. It's more of a time-based thing.
Yeah.
But the guy I spoke with at Aquatic Services said they typically can do between a quarter acre and a third of an acre a day, and it's typically just under $3,000 a day.
Hmm. You know,
So that's just how I sort of got this, again, very rough price estimate.
hmm.
And does that include the effectiveness and all? Does that include doing a drawdown? Because I would imagine that Cochituate doesn't have the ability to do a drawdown like we do at Warner's. And my thought is that a drawdown is going to help with some of this.
No one that I talked to mentioned including a drawdown as part of it. It sounded like in some places they're actually doing it in areas that are much deeper than Warner's Pond. So I don't think, from what I could tell, I don't think that drawdown would necessarily make a huge impact. Maybe they could get through some areas a little quicker if it's not as deep, but no one mentioned it as something that could help the process along.
Well, the people, I mean, if we don't mention that it's an option here, I'm not surprised they wouldn't mention it. But
Sure.
was it part of the discussion? And
no, I mean, to be fair, no, I didn't bring it up either, because I thought we had kind of moved away from drawdown after that EA
Yeah.
tech memo on we could get it down. I don't remember what it was, but it was very little.
Yeah, you're right. Well, that's discouraging. I was hoping that we'd see some, did the company talk about their experience about how often they have to return? Or did they not want to get in, or did you not ask them that, which I understand?
I didn't ask him about that, but I did ask the people who are, the lake managers and municipal
Yeah.
employees about it, and they said it's in every year. They said the densities do reduce, and over time they've had good results from it. But it's something they've been doing for many years, and they don't anticipate stopping anytime soon.
Hmm. How much are they paying per year then, Bert? Do you know?
Barnstable was about $90,000 a year.
Wow.
Did I write down what? I don't think New York gave me an actual number, but they have them out there for I'm not sure how long they have them out there, but yeah, Barnstable, they budget every year for it. This past year it was 90 something thousand dollars. New York, the person I talked to in New York said they are slowly moving away from large scale dash to use herbicides instead. But but their costs seemed pretty. They're $8,000 a week for them,
Wow.
so a little lower, but
And we've already ruled out herbicides because of the high flow through that area. Is that right?
And I think, well, I don't remember whether we completely ruled it out, but I think we generally were concerned about the high flow and people's reaction to herbicides. Wasn't that it? Did anyone else remember? I don't,
I think that was right.
yeah.
There
yeah,
was a
that's how I
general
remember it.
Reluctance to use herbicides.
You know, the one place where I thought it'd be significant, at least to do something, and I worry the most about this, is the passageway from the boat launch to Scout Island. When I travel out, when I've been out in the pond recently, that is filled with milfoil. It's just very hard to get across to the island. I mean, you can do it,
Yep.
but you're constantly digging it up. So that stretch is probably about maybe an acre, maybe an acre, maybe 2 acres going across, or maybe an acre. I don't know.
Right, but it's right along that shoreline that I thought would be, my recollection, which might be faulty, was that would be an area that would be positively
Yeah,
affected by a drawdown, and then you could remove that milfoil. Because yeah, that's exactly the part that I'm most concerned about.
sure. Yeah,
Right, and I mean, it's not difficult to hand pick. I mean, I routinely hand pick a path myself out to the deep spot of Lake Atchituit.
wow.
And that's free. It's just weeding, like weeding your garden. You just sort
Right.
of weed a path.
So what are we going to do with? I mean, they want us to have a final report. What are we going to say?
Isn't
I
that what
think
it is?
maybe.
So that kind of brings me back to this possible alternative. And I don't want to throw a wrench in things, especially this late in the game. But I suspect that the cost of Dash, at least over the whole pond, because that number was for the entire pond.
Yeah,
That's probably not a sustainable
no.
approach.
No. Hey, Bert, can I share the screen for 1 second? If I can
Yeah.
hang on.
Yep.
No, I have to find what I want here. Can you folks see this? Maybe not. Oh, I didn't share it yet, so you can't see anything. Hang on. So you see this, see here? Can you see the picture now?
Mhm.
That is the area where I was thinking the pond would need to have Dash used. And there's the
Right.
boat launch. And this is I figured out it's about 13 acres, which is much too much. And there I was thinking the cost would be between $15,000 to $25,000 an acre. And so I thought the cost would run from 195 to 325. But if you did a straight piece across from here to here, a much smaller piece, that would probably be no more than a couple of acres.
Right.
That could be done. So I would just say, I personally, I'm not recommending we put this in the report because I wanted to do some playing with it. And Bert has already other numbers. But I think, Bert, if we picked up on your phraseology, as long as we know that in doing a pond management plan, they will still consider looking at both Dash in small areas and maybe even drawdown for some small areas. Does that seem reasonable? I think
Yeah. And actually when I spoke with the guy from Aquatic Services, and just sort of gave him the rundown of what we were looking at here, he was pretty quick to say, Dash throughout an area that large just does not make sense.
yeah.
But he said, if some other management activities, get the densities down, it probably could make sense for, smaller sort of maintenance areas, I
Yeah.
guess. So I think if a pond or lake management firm looked at it, you know, and we could have some say in that too. But my assumption is they wouldn't rule anything out immediately unless it's something that, you know, just clearly wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah. Can we see your passage again, Bert?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I'd be okay with that. I don't know about David and Ann.
Yes, yes, certainly.
I'm good.
Mhm.
All right. Okay.
So would that mean
Yeah,
Or-
eliminating the top two.
crossing out 2 and 3,
Yep.
and then down here, should we move this or that other passage about dash? Should we move that into the, what was it? The, can't remember where it is, the rejected or the not recommended things that we looked at, I guess this section here. Should we
What did
move
we end up
that
saying?
or?
Well, what did we end up saying about drawdown? Did we change? Did we say something at the end about drawdown, or did we just leave it out?
I think we just took it out. We could put something about drawdown on there.
Or I would just assume not take it out entirely, but just say, you know, these just to David's point, just let it let it float. We can tell the committee that we've done the exploration. We've done some cross looking at it, but this would require the work of as you suggest, consulting with a lake management planner before we could recommend anything. Does that make sense? In other words, just take out the dash. I would just take out the dash thing without not recommending it. Just drop it.
Okay.
Right.
Whoop. There we go.
No, we could just get rid of that whole thing.
I thought it was mentioned. Okay. Then, so are we good to move on?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I just changed that slightly because you don't need to assign this to anyone because it's already within their purview. It's just another, you know, semantics.
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
And that was it.
All right. Good. So now what? So are we ready for this to be presented once we clean it up?
I think so, right? I think we're there.
So are you going to try to put numbers, Bert, or is it they're not worth putting in those financials? I mean, honestly, I'm not sure it's going to be that much what we after we've taken out these things.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to. I mean, I don't know that we could put anything in with any high level of confidence, but I think what we could say is at least the initial cost that we're looking at, in the immediate future with this proposal would be substantially less than either of the other.
I think you could say it's within,
Alternatives.
it's within the parameters of the current natural resources budget, generally. Would that be accurate or pushing it too far?
I would want to check on that.
Okay.
I would want to check on that. But if all we're talking about in the immediate future, I guess, would be to consult with a lake or pond management firm to put together a plan, that's going to be far less than taking the dam out or dredging. We
Yeah.
can say that, pretty confidently. And then whatever costs would come after that would be based on whatever that plan is, and what the annual costs are. We couldn't really say right now.
Okay.
Does that seem reasonable?
Seems
I-
okay to me.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So David, I think you should bring up changing the name of the pond. No, it seems reasonable. Seems okay.
All right. So I'll just go through that and accept the changes, and I guess if anything needs to get cleaned up, just do that, and I'll send out a final version to everybody.
That'd be great. That'd be really good. All right. So is there anything else? Are we all done?
I think the only left, we had public comment on our agenda as we
Oh, yeah,
as we
yeah.
always do.
I think, oh yeah, good. Yeah, Carlin, what's up?
Hi, Bill. Carlin Reed, 83 Wits End, member of the Finance Committee, but speaking on my own behalf. Just, can you give me a big picture of when your proposal is going to be presented and when the dredging committee subgroup is going to be presented? Because we've heard from the dam removal. What about the other two groups? Is that the
Yeah,
17th?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is that on the 17th at 6 o'clock?
Yeah, and I think I don't know if the dredging group will be ready by then, because they have, they just got, you probably know this, they just got an estimate from a company on who will give them, I'm sorry, they just, I think they contracted with somebody who's going to find out for them how much it'll cost to do the dredging. Is that correct, Bert? Is that right?
Yep.
All
Yep.
right. So my guess is it won't be ready until the beginning of next year. That's my guess.
For dredging?
Yeah, and I think once we get our act together, which isn't that far away, I think we might be ready, but I don't think we'll be ready by the 17th. Well, I don't know. What do you folks think, Ann and David?
I think you're really close. I mean,
Well, then we might be ready. I think for us, the money is going to be de minimis. It's not going to be much. I have no idea how much. My guess is we're basically telling them to continue operating and run meetings and look into these other possible, consultants, but nothing else. Isn't that correct, folks? Or am I misreading this?
Yes.
We've taken out the two
that's
big
right.
items that we've taken out the big items we thought about, which were specifically saying to go after drawdown and to go after the DASH program. So I don't see anything else.
Okay.
Carlin, the one thing that's outstanding for all of us, well, not all of us, if you took the dam out, it's not, but for the other two groups will be a fish passage.
Got it. I appreciate that. I'm thinking about it in context of FinCom. We just issued our preliminary guidelines. And as Bert and Ann probably already know, from the town's perspective, it would require them to cut about almost $500,000 from their proposed budgets. Schools are about $550,000 cut, and regional high school about $175,000 cut. So yeah, basically saying you're about $1 million over what we feel comfortable doing. So that's part of my background, and what I
Sure.
keep when I listen to various options. So thanks for
So-
the update. Yeah.
Well, Carlin, before you finish,
Sure.
we have, I believe, close to $2 million still allocated for our project. Is that correct? Do you know? Anyone else know?
I think it's closer to 3.
Closer to 3, I'm sorry, about $3 million, that combination of funds that have been already allocated to us. So I think we're hoping to be able to work within that, have this done within that amount of money.
Okay, so you're sitting on a pot of $3 million, and
No,
the town budget.
No,
It doesn't
no,
sound
Ann.
right, guys.
no, if you're talking about CPA money, quite a lot of that is designated for dredging. And so if the project is not a dredging project, the money needs to be returned.
I see.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay, so if it goes
Okay.
to, but if it is dredging, then that stays, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
interesting. I'll stay tuned. Thanks a lot, folks. You're doing a great job. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Carlin. Anybody else, Bert?
That's it.
All right. Folks, one more thing. I've been working, maybe I showed this to you already, on a PowerPoint with whatever Bert comes up with. So shall I continue to work on that to be shown? Have you had a chance to see it? I think I sent it at the last meeting, but I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. You did.
Did I do that, Bert?
I don't know.
It
about
was
the
a while
last
ago.
meeting,
I
but
honestly don't remember.
Well, if let me share the screen, I'll show you again. Now they'll
Sure.
stop.
Go ahead.
All right. How do I share? Share screen. All right. Let me, this is the one. I think this is the one I've been working on. Let me see it here. So it's just like this. Maybe that's not even the one. Hold on, let me see. That's the one I wanted to show you. One more look. That's this one. Doesn't matter that much. So working on something like this.
Using the language that is pretty much finalized at this point.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and check. I use this from draft 14, but I'll have to go back now and make sure it has everything you just added to it and removed. But there it is, that kind of thing. I was going to add some more pictures too as we went through it.
Great.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
All right. Good. Okay. That's all I wanted. All right, we get out of here. How do I stop sharing? I don't know. I'm trying to, it just doesn't matter, does it?
You're not sharing anymore.
Oh, okay, good. Good. So are we finished?
I think we're good. I'll
Good.
clean that up with the edits and send it out to everybody, and